Hey guys, making sure everything is set up and ready to go. So, I mentioned before that I have been talking on Instagram as well later in the day, usually closing out my, just about closing out my day, 5, 5:30, somewhere around there. Um, and the talk's been mostly yoga, about why I get out in nature so early in the morning, um, mainly the philosophy of yoga, the practice of yoga as well, the asanas, which I generally gloss over a little bit when I talk here. Um, and I shouldn't, because maybe that gives it a disservice. Maybe I give out the vibe that I don't practice asanas too often, or it has less prominence in my practice, which um, it doesn't. It has a very high prominence. Uh, as a matter of fact, I am on the verge of certifying as a yoga teacher, but or at least taking the class for certification, final certification. I have my certification in to teach meditation as well as breath work. And I've been a student of meditation, I'm sorry, a student of yoga forever. Lewis, how are you? Um, Talking a little bit about yoga, philosophy of yoga, meditation, um, breath work, um, all of which has been essential throughout my life um, in so many ways. I doubt that I would have um, gained sobriety without without meditation. I definitely wouldn't have gained it the way I did, which is through perfect grace. It just came to me. There was a moment in my life when I realized I never had to take a drink again. It wasn't even a choice. It wasn't even saying if I do this or I can choose or whatever. I just knew if I wanted to, never had to drink again. I'm glad you're doing good, Lewis. I'm doing pretty good as well, considering 205 Navy SEALs. Um, don't know what brought that on. It was a 20-minute session. Some days you're just called to put your head down and go. You know, don't know why. It's part of life's mystery. So you do. You put your head down and you go. You're always better off doing it. You're always better off listening to those true intuitive urges. There's a difference between those kind of urges and the ones that tell you to bang your head up against the wall or do something stupid, um, which we also have. Fortunately, we tend to have those when we're younger and less often when we're younger, but we're not excluded from ever having them. Um, so yeah, for me, sobriety came about purely through grace. The thing with grace, it's unearned, but I think you suffer for it before you get there. And I certainly suffered through quite a few years of drinking. Um, it is what it is. Says you beat me by 5 today. Great work, Eric. Thanks. Appreciate that. Yeah, but man, you did double seals. That's a tough one. 100 double seals is just crazy. Definitely, in my opinion. So, yeah, when I talk about drinking, I wasn't a, face in the gutter. I wasn't a drunk. I was someone who drank every single day. I always tell people I was a social drinker, and I found every reason in the world to be social. I was social 7 days a week. It is what it is. Says, yeah, Duncan's challenge took me to another place. Oh yeah, um, when he put that out there, I could tell it was going to be a tough one for everyone. I did a version of that, but I only did 8 reps a minute. and that was pretty tough. And I didn't do any leg work afterwards. You took the whole challenge. You ran the whole gauntlet. Um, and as Duncan said on the video, on your video, in a reply, that those were unfamiliar movements for you, and you pushed through. I'm really surprised after pushing through that you were able to do your set today without looking like you did all of that, like you did all that extra leg work. You looked as smooth as ever today, which that's impressive. That alone is impressive, let alone getting through the work. But yeah, you definitely put the work in for that. So yeah, we suffer for grace. I think sometimes it's just handed out. I think, but at a certain point in life, you're purified by the suffering that you go through, and life gives you that little rope. You can pull yourself up, or you're pulled up. God reaches out. There's some people in my circle, non-duality circle, yogic circle, don't really like using the word God so much. Perfectly fine with it. I'm perfectly fine with every expression. For me, I can only say, especially at that time, that I was lifted up by definitely something greater than myself. It was Bill W.'s description of what needs to occur to gain a life of sobriety, and then you follow the 12 steps. I went to very few meetings. I don't necessarily follow the 12 steps. I don't even think of myself as a former drinker. It's just something that I did for many, many years, and I no longer do. The only time I think about it is when I'm talking about it to in a conversation like this, when it comes up for me to offer some type of learning lesson. I hate to use the word teaching. I don't really think that I'm here teaching anything. I'm just offering my story, day to day, whatever that story is. Today, for whatever reason, and maybe it's because I did 205 Navy SEALs, and my thinking is still a little fuzzy, and my body is still a little worn out. I feel like talking about sobriety, how I got there, and it was through yoga. It was through meditation. It is what it is. Says sobriety is hard. Well, for me, it was hard at first, but now I can look at a drink, and it doesn't faze me. Thank God. And he goes on to say, make sure you drink water, Derek. Definitely. Water, and I've included, I don't take a ton of supplements, but the ones that I take, I think are important. About a month or two ago, I added magnesium, and I'm going to take an extra magnesium today. I get plenty of other minerals and electrolytes from my diet. It's very high in fruit. Lots of bananas as barefoot burpees. And I have discussed a couple of occasions. So I'm glad to hear about your own sobriety. We all get there in our own way. And yeah, I can be around drinking. I can be around people who drink, and it doesn't faze me at all. However, like bars and stuff, it's not that it fazes me, but I think I can't believe this held so much interest for me at one time that I always needed to be out. And need is the operative word. I needed to be out. I needed to be out there doing something, drinking, having a good time, even though I wasn't having a good time any longer. I did. It started out as a fun thing, and then it just became something to fill the void. It is what it is. Ask if I'm a football fan. Um, Not so much the game as I am, and not even anymore, individual players. Um, I like any individual athlete who's outstanding at what they do. I liked Tom Brady. That's a hard thing to that's a hard thing to say in a public place. That's a hard thing for me to say on YouTube because now it's out there and it's on the internet forever. People will be holding this against me for the rest of my life. It'll come up. We have it on a YouTube clip. You like Tom Brady. Here's the thing. Here's the thing that I like about Tom Brady, or I did like about Tom Brady. His love for the game, his passion for the game, but more so, he was very innovative in his training. Gave up almost all weight training and did mostly bands because, as he said, as a quarterback at this stage in my career, how much do I need to bench press whatever? How much do I need to squat? I don't. I need to be strong enough to throw the football. I need to be pliable enough to take a hit and get back up and keep going and do that over and over and over again. Um, the day after the last game of the season, and that could be regular season, playoff, or Super Bowl. The very next day, he had that year's training plan mapped out, his diet mapped out, everything that needed to be done. He was throwing the football the very next day. To do that for as long as he did. So, like him as a player or don't like him, honestly, as a player, I don't even know much about him. I didn't follow him as a player. I followed him as an athlete. Uh, Absolutely incredible. Same reason why I loved Walter Payton. He ran the hills in the sand. Just an incredible work ethic to be the best. He did. He did what you did, Lewis. Put his head down and went. He didn't say, "I've never done this before. I'm going to be sore tomorrow. If I do this today, I won't be able to do 5 pump burpees tomorrow." He just did it. He did what he needed to do that day. Jerry Rice. If you look at him now, um, I just said Jerry Rice, and then your text popped up. You would love Jerry Rice. That guy was a machine. That guy is still a machine. He still runs those hills in San Francisco, and he takes the new guys out. He takes the rookies out, and very few, if any, can keep up with him. Not even sure. It's a good thing I keep mentioning this. It's a good thing that I have Google here. How old is Jerry Rice? Jerry Rice is 60. He's 3 years. He was born in 62. So he's 3 years younger than me, older than me. Sorry. He will be, his birthday is the same as my sister's. He'll be 60. He'll be 61 coming up. And yeah, if you look at him now, I can pull up an image, but you guys wouldn't be able to see it. The man is ripped. He looks like he could step on. He looks like he could step onto the playing field right now. Not just an amazing athlete. I always think of some people are just gifted, and he was most certainly gifted. Tom Brady was gifted. But more than that, he took that gift and he ran with it. He made himself what he is. Hard work, grit. Yeah, I was talking about grace and sobriety. There's a lot of grace that goes into being that kind of athlete. Things tend to happen when you're that good, when your mind's in the right place, when you're aligned, body, mind, and spirit. And he was most certainly aligned. Maybe a few athletes at any level reach that point of alignment. When I say things like everything is yoga, Jerry Rice. Sorry, I'm pointing at a picture of Jerry Rice, and of course nobody can see that. Jerry Rice playing football. That's yoga. And remember, yoga means yoke, to union with the divine. And you can't watch somebody play football like that, catch a ball like that, and not think that somehow they've achieved that sense of union with the divine, that their body knows just exactly what to do. And I see that in the burpee community. People just doing some incredible feats. And not even as if it's, look at me, look at this thing I'm going to do. It's the same thing as I was saying with Walter Payton. Just doing the work that needs to be done for them. I'll tell you another athlete I like, not a football player, Mike Tyson. Mike Tyson was the heavyweight champion when I was, I guess, in my late teens and early 20s. And he was just brutal. Loved the fact he came out old school. Towel around his neck, black boots, no socks. He was going to war. I was just going to mention, it is what it is, says, I wouldn't take a punch from him even now. I was just going to mention who he is now and the shape that he's in. And he got pretty bad out of shape. He was pretty heavy. He might have been pushing close to 300 pounds at one time. At one point, he was a vegan, which I admired, no longer. Here's a weird thing for me to say. Mike Tyson licked the toad, which means that he took DMT, which is a potent hallucinogen. It tears you apart, and then you're slowly assembled. And it happens in a space of 5 minutes. And yet when you're under the influence of DMT, it seems that you've lived an entire life. You say lick the toad because DMT comes from the pituitary glands of certain desert toads. If you find the right one and you pick it up and you lick it, you will trip your balls off. Don't recommend that. One, I don't recommend just going around and licking stray toads. Some of them are highly poisonous. You might find one that's hallucinogenic, but you lick it and you're going to get a potent hit, and you might not come back from it. So don't go around licking toads. Mike Tyson did a hit of DMT, came back almost devoid of ego, as he would say. He was just a different guy. He did it. He was a different guy. He wanted to change his diet. He started working out again. Even when he boxes, even when he made his last comeback, old guy fighting old guy, he was a different person. Instead, he fought differently. He no longer wanted to go out and kill them. If you remember his old press junkets that he used to do, and he'd say, yeah, I want to eat your children. I want to bite your ear off. I want to knock your head off. I want to murder you. Second time around, it's just a mellow guy who'd like to box. Still punched like a mother. And like Lewis said, wouldn't want to take a punch from him. Nope. I actually watched the clip on him on Facebook just a couple hours ago, and he was shadow boxing with his dog, actually. You didn't see the dog in the clip until at the end. And yeah, he still moves that same peekaboo style. So, yeah, this is a long answering your question, Lewis. I'm a football fan, and I've gone from talking football players, Tom Brady, to Mike Tyson, to licking a toad. Never know where this conversation is going to take us. Some other athletes, I really can't think of too many nowadays. Well, tennis, and I can't remember his name. Good thing I have Google. I got to figure out. The one, I don't think I can pronounce his name. It's a Ukrainian. He won Wimbledon a couple times. Anyone who's a tennis fan who might happen by can help me out. I don't follow tennis either. Although it's an amazing sport. And again, I appreciate what they do. So yeah, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name anyway. No, Serbian. I think he is the one that I am talking of. Lewis, are you a tennis fan? Do you know anything about anything that I'm talking about tennis-wise? I think it is Novak Djokovic. Djokovic. I really shouldn't try pronouncing your Eastern European names live on YouTube without practicing it for half an hour before I try. Anyway, I believe it's him who, it is what it is, says he's heard that name before. He started suffering some panic attacks, and he had some breathing issues. And he devoted himself, and he still does, to deep breath work. I think he might have started doing Wim Hof, and Wim Hof is just yogic breathing. For those who've ever practiced yogic breathing, you look at Wim Hof and you think yogic breathing. And early on, Wim Hof used to talk about how he learned his breathing method from practicing yoga. But now I think he's switched things up, and he's saying that this is his own discovery. And I am not one to offer a contradiction to whatever anyone claims or has to say. It's not my business. But so yeah, I believe it's Novik. And he used deep breathing. I forget what form he's doing now, but he's continuing it, as well as yoga, to change his game around, come back. I think I don't know how many times. I have him right here. I could look it up. I don't know how many times he's won Wimbledon. Venus Williams, amazing athlete, practices breathing. She's plant-based. You always make that distinction between plant-based and vegan. Vegan is an ethical stance. I tell people I'm a vegan because I'm a vegan for the animals. If someone said, we now have medical proof that veganism is the worst diet for your health, I'd be like, what can I do? I'm a vegan. I'm a vegan for the animals. I'm a vegan for the planet. However, when I talk about it, I don't put my beliefs forward. I tell people I think it's better to eat plant-based, meaning that the majority of your food is from plants. You might eat fish, you might eat eggs, you might eat meat, but the vast majority of it comes from plants. So plant-based. I think plant-based is the way to go to heal yourself, to heal the planet. But I don't urge anyone to do anything outside of what they find is best for them. The stuff that I practice is the stuff that I practice. I've come about this through a long, fairly difficult life, finding the things that work for me, dismissing the things that don't. Much the way our favorite football player Tom Brady did when he gave up weight training and embraced a plant-based diet. Did I mention that as well? Tom Brady was plant-based. Very weirdly so. Specific foods that he wouldn't eat because he believed that increased inflammation. Probably true, probably so. Like tomatoes. Certain times of the year he wouldn't eat tomatoes because um, he needed to keep his inflammation low, especially when you're taking massive hits. I always mention I don't. If I had a kid, I have a stepchild, happily so, um, very talented stepchild. Um, but if I had a kid right now, young kid, I doubt that I would let them play football. You're taking those micro hits, little tiny, even with a helmet. I actually think it was safer back in the day when people were playing football with leather helmets because you didn't lead with your head. You didn't take those micro hits. You were a little more careful. It's the same boxing. You're better off boxing with really light gloves or no gloves because you're not going to hit somebody all out without a glove. You'll break your hand. You learn to um, not pull your punches, but punch safely, which also lessens the impact. So people back in the golden era of boxing with the lighter gloves actually would fight 60, 80, 100 bouts and suffer less damage, maybe at the end of their life because they would fight for so long. But nowadays, you got people fighting for 20 or 30 fights and they're already suffering brain damage. It's the gloves. Plus, people are just bigger. You know, you have 240-pound heavyweights. It used to be a heavyweight was 200 pounds. I think Marciano was only 189. It is what it is. Says he didn't know that about Tom Brady, and then mostly because Tom has been my team's enemy since the Tuck rule in 2001. Your Raiders, I believe, right? Pretty sure I saw the Raiders Nation flag flying in the background. Um, Back in the day when I did follow football a little bit more, I was born in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So there was that rivalry between um, the Raiders and Pittsburgh. And I'm sure the Immaculate Reception is a sore point for Raiders fans even today when Jack Tatum tipped the ball up in the air, swears he didn't, swore probably until the day that he died that he did not tip the football up in the air, but he did. Franco Harris picked it up before it touched the ground, ran it in for the touchdown, and that brought in possibly the most dominant era of a football team ever. Pittsburgh Steelers, 1970. The team that had the most depth. I think maybe even the most people make to the Hall of Fame that era, and I could be mistaken. I most often I am when I'm talking that kind of stuff, but no one can doubt the depth. That's back when I knew football players, not personally, well, some actually, but when I could name people and what team. I honestly, I don't think I could name a single professional football player. I know I couldn't name a single professional baseball player right now. Maybe not even a professional boxer. And I used to love following boxing. Another team and another era, absolute great. 1960s, 65 to 69, Green Bay Packers. If you ever want to read a great sports book, Jerry Kramer's Instant Replay, his recount of the 1967 season when it was, maybe it was 68. It was a year after they won the first Super Bowl and their journey back-to-back repeats. The power sweep, Vince Lombardi's power sweep, Fuzzy Thurston, Jerry Kramer leading the way, Jim Taylor or Paul Hornig, the golden boy, Paul Hornig in the backfield, Bart Starr throwing the ball. That was definitely a team. Well, football was football. I agree. Back when Bronco Nagurski was playing. Another player, I love watching. Funny thing is, I won't sit and watch a single football game, but I'll spend 2 hours on YouTube watching football clips of players that I like, watching Walter Payton. Not too long ago, I was watching Larry Zonka, 1970s Miami Dolphins fullback. The only football player, the only running back I've ever seen who would look around the field for someone to hit while he was carrying the ball. Running backs aren't supposed to do that. Franco Harris avoided a hit. To save his life, he would not take a hit. He ran towards the sideline. Great running back, fast. Just passed away, I think either this year or last year, so rest in peace, Franco. Again, he was a great running back, but he would head towards the sidelines, and if he was going to take a hit, he'd step out. He wouldn't fight for an extra yard. Larry Zonka, if you gave him a hit that he didn't appreciate, the very next play, he would look for you. He'd get the ball. He could be going for a touchdown. He'd head in the opposite direction just to lay you out, just to hit you. I watched another clip once of Walter Payton hitting someone with a forearm shiv as he was running. Split the guy's helmet. As Lewis said, when football was football, definitely. It was just a different game back then. It's still a rough sport. Still tremendous athletes. The amazing thing is, when I was in high school, I think we had one guy that weighed like 240 or 250. Big guy. And he was just considered unusually big. Now you have high school linemen that are 270, 300 pounds. Jerry Kramer, I think he was a guard. I think he weighed maybe 240. Fuzzy Thurston, the other guard, might have been a little bigger, maybe 250-ish. They would be considered small. They would be considered running back material these days. Punters. The same with what I was saying about heavyweight boxers. I don't know how people got so big, but Rocky Marciano, 189, 190. Jack Dempsey was under 200. Muhammad Ali, I think, was about 210. Same with Joe Louis, maybe 200. You had Primo Carimia, was an Italian-American heavyweight that was like 250, and he was just considered this monster of a heavyweight. Now 250 is just run-of-the-mill. Athletes are a different breed. They're also very specialized. You got people who want to be football players when they're 5 years old and they play football. That's it. They might do other stuff for fun, but that's their main avenue. Same, maybe a week or two ago, talking with Barefoot Burpee and Duncan about people starting golf, kids starting golf when they're 5 or 6. Tiger Woods, the Venus sisters starting tennis when they were like 7, and playing every day, hours. Swimmers, Michael Phelps is local. As a matter of fact, his aunt was a nun, and she was my grade school and middle school principal, Sister Catherine. His swimming schedule, absolutely crazy. To reach that level, the amount of dedication that you put in for any sport like that. And yet, shift things over here a little bit. How crazy is it, for no reason whatsoever, no paycheck, no sponsors, here we are doing 100 double Navy SEALs, 205 Navy SEALs, doing burpees in our basement, doing burpees on our deck, burpees in our kitchen. For whatever it is, there is some drive in some people to do things. express themselves physically. But it's not just physically. I mentioned before, there's no such thing as mind, body, not with a slash between, not hyphenated, not mind and body. The mind is infused through the body. It is what it is, as hashtag burpees anywhere. Exactly. And not just anywhere, but the fact that we do them. Who, D Bird, I don't remember his first name. The Men in Action, doing burpees at 3:30 in the morning. I'm actually up every morning at 3:30, 3:40, and I'm meditating by 4. And then I got my burpees later, a little bit later in the morning, a couple hours later. But for whatever reason, there's that urge that says, get up at 3:30 in the morning and do my burpees. It is what it is. This guy's insane, solid soldier. Definitely has his path laid clear. This is what I do. I get up in the morning and I do burpees. Here's what he does. This is what he says he does. I generally don't cuss. I don't avoid it. I just don't. Mainly because people look at me and like, that just doesn't seem right coming out of you. Here's what he does. I get up every morning at 3:30 and do my motherfucking burpees. And he says it good-naturedly, but intense. Because you know why? Because he gets up at 3:30 every morning and he does his motherfucking burpees. That's why we all do them. No matter what time we do them and no matter where we do them, we get up every morning and we do our motherfucking burpees. Who knows why? That's the thing with, I talk quite a bit, my interest in shamanism, working with the spirit, working with, and when I say spirit, I mean the spirit of everything. Shamanism, they would say the spirit of all things, the spirit that moves through all things. And shamanism from indigenous tribes of America, South America, shamanism of Canadian and Siberian tribes, Celtic shamanism, Germanic shamanism, all of it has interest for me. And they would say it's a form of prayer. We are using our body to express nature, to express the fact that God gave us the gift of motion. To not use it would be a sin. And I mean sin in the original translation from the Bible. To sin meant to miss the mark. It was a term from archery. The original Greek translation was to sin meant to miss the mark. So when we say that someone's a sinner, it's not saying that they're evil. It's not saying that they are inherently bad. It's that they are mistaken. They've lost their identity. They no longer know who they are. They no longer feel connected to the divine. So they're doing things that are foreign to them. They've sinned. They've missed the mark. To not do burpees when you're called to do burpees, or if you're called to be a runner, or if you're called to do Olympic lifting. If you ever watch Brad doing snatches, clean and jerks, it's a beautiful movement. That raw power and getting under the bar. To not do that would be a sin for him. Doesn't matter how good you are. It doesn't matter how much weight you lift. Doesn't matter how many burpee reps you get. If you're called to do burpees, at 3:30 in the morning, to not do so would be a sin. I mentioned before Jane Roberts, spiritual teacher back in the 70s, would say that at about 3, somewhere between the hours of 3 and 6, God gives all of us a wake-up call. Most of us hit the snooze button. And we told God, I'll get back to you. Look me up again, 7:30. Look me up at 8. Better yet, make it 9 after I had my last cup of coffee. Then I'll get back to you. And then we'll discuss things. It's not what you do. You got a wake up call from God at 3:30 in the morning. And if that urge is to do burpees, you get up and you do your burpees. If it's to get up and meditate, you get up and meditate. If it's to go out for a run, you go out and run. As soon as I'm done meditating, I get a little bit of writing in, and I'm out the door for my walk before the sun comes up. Every morning, I want the first light to hit my eyes. There's a chemical, hormonal effect. You get that first light hitting your eyes in the morning, your body starts to produce useful hormones. Cortisol, which is a stress hormone, everyone thinks it's bad. It's actually very beneficial in its right spot. You don't want cortisol when you're trying to sleep. You don't want cortisol when you're in a meeting and you're trying to be calm and peaceful. But you want it when you get up because you want to get up and go. You want that oomph to get you through the day. And the good thing with that cortisol and other hormones, specifically growth hormones, they die off through the course of the day, and the raw material that they leave behind is made into serotonin and melatonin to help you sleep later in that night. So getting the first rays of light hitting your eyes. It is what it is. Says he has to run. I hope you have a great rest of the day. Thank you for the live. Thank you, Lewis, for joining me. I really appreciate it. And I appreciate the football talk. It's been a long time since I've got a chance to talk about the athletes that I really admired and really loved. And thanks for the burpee chat as well. So I'll actually be winding down here myself. So I appreciate everyone joining in. As I was saying about getting that first light, getting outside and walking, doing my yoga when I come back, actually do my yoga before I walk, that's what I'm called to do. For whatever reason, I don't question it. Because it feels right, it feels natural. My body, and when I say my body, I mean my mind, body, one thing, is telling me to do it. So I listen. And it took me forever to learn to listen. But I'm glad I do. I'm glad at this point in my life, I've learned to listen. It's the same thing. It's telling me to come here on YouTube and talk about yoga, tying it all together, how everything we do is yoga in its finest form. For whatever reason, it's what I'm called to do. I come here and I do it. For better, for worse. Thanks everyone for watching. For those who do, I appreciate it. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Take care.